Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope you had a good Friday, and I hope you are getting ready for a fun and relaxing Easter weekend. And with that, we are going to dive into the news so we can see all that is going on. Of course, we have a slightly shorter show today: privacy, security, business, and SillyVille. We left out the AI. Nothing was amazingly compelling. But let's go ahead and dive right on in. First up, Sam Altman's iris-scanning WorldCoin crypto project is now banned in another country. Of course, Spain looks at this thing and says, wait, you want us all to stare into this Palantir-like cube and give up our iris scans under a method that we may never withdraw our consent? That sounds a little shady. Now, they had to use the program in the GDPR that only allows them to delay it for 3 months pending further review. But what they're saying is that this device, when you use it, you may not withdraw your consent. So once he has scanned your retina, it can never be taken out of there. Now, of course, I just think that this guy, I think we just need to say, okay, you've won millions of dollars. Here's an island. You're banished from society. Here's why. This is the guy that spearheads OpenAI and ChatGPT. ChatGPT is released on the world and causes all manner of problems. So solved several more problems than it solved. It created a bunch of AI, which is now replacing jobs. It is now being used to create much better phishing and scamming stuff. And then he comes in and he creates this system because it's like, well, AI is now getting so good now that I've unleashed it on the world that we can't tell who's a computer and who's not. So let's just go ahead and create this biometric system that's going to make sure you are a real person. And we're going to do this to hopefully solve the problem that I already created. Here's a thought. If you've created a problem this bad for society, maybe you should not be allowed to propose a fix. Take your billions, banish yourself to an island, and please leave society now, okay? Please. But now, of course, that's not going to happen because they keep on propping these guys up because they're really good, useful idiots for the powers that be and the globalists and the people that would like to take total control of the world. So that's really what's going on here. So he's been going around trying to collect everybody's retinal scans. Now, this is the second country I know of that has banned it. Kenya has previously banned the World ID system. Of course, they're set to come back to that even this Spanish banning is under the GDPR emergency laws, which are only bans it for 3 months unless the further litigation stops it otherwise. Their biggest concern is that, again, you cannot withdraw consent. AEPD writes in the announcement that the agencies received several complaints regarding the amount of information it collects, the collection of data from minors, and the withdrawal consent not being allowed. Now, of course, what they're doing here is they're saying, well, you can use this and it will authenticate you and you don't have to give up any of your personal data. The problem is, as soon as this is used once, it's tied to your personal data. So this is going to turn into something really bad. Right now, they have 4 million people in 120 countries. So we have 4 million sheep in there of the flock of stupidity, which are giving up their retinal scans for hopefully getting some crypto or other things. Now, there are some companies that are already using World ID's biometric authentication protocol. And so think about that. You can already utilize your retina scan to verify your identity. But I thought it didn't know who you were. Interesting questions we have indeed. Well, Telegram releases a new peer-to-peer SMS login service that is an absolute privacy nightmare. So, on the good side of this, just summary first what they're doing. What they're doing is they are allowing Telegram users to utilize their phone number and text messaging capabilities on their device to send OTP 2FA codes to other users. That's what they're doing. So if somebody's like, oh, I need my SMS message, and I'm using a Telegram and I'm signing into this, the text message for their OTP code is going to come from my phone number. No. Now, in exchange for doing this, you get the Telegram's premium service for free. No. Now, on the positive side, here is the only silver lining to this nonsense. It does prevent them from using one of the other big SMS relay companies, which we talked about one just a couple weeks ago in the security section, which has been breached and all of these codes got leaked out. That's the positive side, is that they're not utilizing a big centralized company like that, which minimizes the risk of all that data going out. On the downside, yeah, people's random phone numbers are going to show up as delivering your codes, which could pose some issues on other things, which is weird. So that's ultimately what they're doing. And the biggest problem you have is down here. This is part of what you agree to. You acknowledge and agree that Telegram shall bear no liability for any costs, expenses, damages, or any other adverse or otherwise unforeseen consequences that you may occur as a direct or indirect consequence of your present or past participation in this program. That sounds like one of these famous Louis Rossmann R-word type discussions about company protocol. So, yes, we're going to use this. Your phone number will be used to send somebody an SMS message with an OTP code, and whatever happens to that phone number from there, oh, I can just imagine the type of stuff going on from this. Yeah. I bet we're going to see scammers utilizing this system to harvest people's Telegram numbers. I bet that's what we're going to see. So, because, Telegram is this perfectly clean place where no fraud or scam goes on ever at any time. And if you believe that, I have a brand new bridge in Baltimore to sell you. It's just at the bottom of the bay. So, on to our last story, the most requested story. I got a ton of commentary on this one. YouTube is ordered to reveal the identities of video viewers. God. This is like everything wrong with this makes me want to get off of YouTube now. All right. So, the U.S. authorities, clearly lacking the wisdom of Solomon, is investigating some people. And so they create a video and they send it to somebody to watch. And their idea was, this guy's going to watch the video and then we're going to be able to subpoena the information and figure out who they are. Well, this sounds like a very glowy operation on the front. The problem is they released this video live, like public, and in just a couple of days, it was over January 1st and January 8th, it was viewed 30,000 times. It was promoted. It was pushed up in the algorithm. Some people, they might have had a YouTube video playing, walked away to, go get a cup of coffee, come back and the video starts playing on the next video autoplay. Well, what happens now is the glowing ones contact YouTube and say, we want all the information you have on every one of the 30,000 people that watched this video. Which they released to get information from people who watched the video. How this passed any form of even rubber stamp is beyond me. So if anybody's caught up in this, now, if you're not logged in, they got the IP addresses. So fundamentally, they can take those IP addresses and figure out who you are. Anybody who was logged into YouTube and happened to watch this particular video, they asked for absolutely everything YouTube has on them, their names, their email addresses, their phone numbers, everything is what they did. So the idea here, I don't even know what in the world they were looking. They were looking for a drug smuggler or something, and they released a video on Bitcoin for cash. Nothing of this makes sense, which is the perfect thing to happen in this current administration, because nothing in our current administration makes any sense either. And so it's kind of, you look at this and you go, wait, what? Wait, huh? Yeah. So FBI releases a video publicly and then wants to know who all watched the video. So that's wonderful news. Let's head on a look over at security news to see what else is going on. I thought that multi-factor authentication was just going to fix all of these problems. So, of course, this is a new MFA bypassing phishing kit that targets Microsoft 365 and Gmail accounts. So this is a new phishing take based on an old methodology, and this one is called Tycoon 2FA. It's specifically targeting Microsoft 365 and Gmail accounts, and it bypasses two-factor authentication. So it was discovered during a routine threat hunting. Here, let me just get down to the bottom what they're doing. So what they're doing is they're distributing malicious links through embedded URLs or QR codes, tricking users into those pages. And then they get a Cloudflare to filter out bots and make sure it's only humans. So they're now using Cloudflare's filtering to filter out bots to make sure that the human is the one that lands on their phishing page. Brilliant. The background scripts extract the victim's email from the URL. So, of course, the URL link went in and grabbed that information. Users are then quietly redirected to another part of the phishing site, moving them closer to a fake logins page. This stage presents a fake Microsoft login to steal credentials using WebSockets for data exfiltration. And then the kit mimics a 2FA challenge, intercepting the 2FA token or response to bypass security measures. And then finally, the victims are directed to a legitimate looking page, obscuring the phishing attack's success. So the overall process, what they're doing is they're redirecting you to a page, interfering with your 2FA and utilizing this, and then effectively, then they're stealing your session cookie is what they're doing ultimately. And so they're utilizing all these different endpoints to filter out the bots and make sure it's really human. So it's really brilliant. Now, Google responds and says, yeah, but passwords are bad. We got passkeys, blah, blah, blah. And the researchers, let's see, let me just read their whole response. These are well-known types of phishing attacks. We have numerous protections to combat such attacks, including passkeys, which substantially reduce the impact of phishing and other social engineering attacks. The problem is that passkeys still allow session cookies, which is how people are still getting into your stuff. Google research has shown that security keys provide a stronger protection against automated bots. So does this, I will note. Bulk phishing attacks, target attacks, SMS, app-based one-time, and other forms of traditional 2FA. So Google's trying to say this doesn't really affect us, even though the attack is specifically targeting Google accounts. Now, granted, maybe you might be slightly more protected if you have passkeys. I say only slightly. Maybe you're a lot more protected if you're not clicking phishing links. There's a thought. So that is definitely a new take on an old approach. Well, this is brilliant here. I know we got some truckers that watch the channel, so you guys will love this one. The truck-to-truck worm could infect and disrupt an entire U.S. commercial fleet. So this deals with electronic logging devices, which now all trucks are required to have. So everyone has to have these ELD devices inside of your trucks. They log your driving time, your distance, and a bunch of other engine statistics and things like that. The problem is there's very few of these. Almost all of them have very predictable names like manufacturer name Wi-Fi or manufacturer name Bluetooth, and then they all have embedded default administrative passwords. So if you are a trucker and you have one of these things, make sure you have changed that administrative password. So what they're doing is, of course, you just have to go to a rest area, places like I tend to congregate when I'm not on BLM land. I mean, the number of times I've parked somewhere in the vicinity of 30 or 40 trucks is quite amazing. So what they were able to do is park in the same vicinity, like rest areas, truck parking lots, things like that. And then what they're able to do is do a scan for a local Wi-Fi. Now, why does this work? Well, if you've ever hooked up something like a screencast. A lot of these devices, what they do is they broadcast a shortwave Wi-Fi signal, which allows you to log in with your device and then control the administrative dashboard. And these are all very predictable. So you can sit inside of a truck stop and you can just do a quick scan. You can find one of these Wi-Fi links, use the administrative default password, which most of them have not changed, and then you can get in there and you can start doing a lot of things with settings, including update the firmware to malware that you have created for the device. Well, in one instance, what they did is they were able to create a worm that just self-automates its own malware. And then driving, they did this test where a truck is driving down the interstate, a Tesla is driving next to it, and the passenger in the Tesla, or who knows, maybe the driver with full self-driving in the Tesla, pulls out his little device, scans for the Wi-Fi, hacks into the truck, and forces the truck to pull over by hacking the ELD device, forcing the truck to pull over. Well, creating a worm allows any truck to get in the vicinity of any other truck. The worm kicks on, looks for that Wi-Fi, and if those password settings have not changed, it just jumps and rewrites the firmware and then proceeds to do the same thing again, thus effectively creating a botnet where anybody else could possibly get in there and start doing funky things. Isn't this amazing that we are forced to have all these devices with almost no security on all of our trucks? How long before the truck scenario happens and we end up with a circumstance where the truck armies are being confiscated? These truckers are starting to do everything. So that is nuts. That is just utterly nuts. So with that, though, if you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting A2 Hosting. If you need a website, consider A2 Hosting. tlm.li/A2H. You can get your hosting your first term as low as $3 per month, and then however much you buy that in advance, it locks in that price and it goes up to the regular rates. I think what are they, like 10 maybe a month? I forget what they are after the introductory, but they have really good service. They have US based support. So if you're in the US and you get this, you will actually be calling support with somebody in the country with you. And they have a couple of different regions around the country to make sure that your website works best for the region you do business most with. tlm.li/A2H. And with that, let's head on over to business news. So first up in business news, we bring you an update. Of course, last week we talked about don't upgrade your Mac to 14.4. It's going to erase your files out of cloud, kill your USB ports, and all sorts of other weird shenanigans. Well, they did 14.4.1, which repaired a lot of those issues. So, of course, USB hubs stopped working. External displays may not be recognized. Copy protected audio unit plugins designed for professional music apps didn't open or validate. Any apps that included Java might quit unexpectedly. Of course, the iCloud drive went bust. Printers stopped working. Basically what happens on Windows on a weekly basis. Just happened to Apple, you know. So with that, though, they pushed out the 14.4.1, and that solved a lot of these problems. So if you were, waiting to upgrade your Mac, then 14.4.1 might be the one you would consider doing. I'd probably still make sure you have an external offline backup of your data, though. That certainly is something you should consider doing. So that's just a brief update. Well, of course, they want to get everyone forced to use green and renewable energy. And of course, just before we started the show, I heard that I think it was Washington State just passed a law that by, 2042, I think is going to have to be 100% green energy, you know. Green energy, none of which is actually all that green. They don't want to talk about nuclear, of course. Oh, that'd be bad. Well, in light of all of this, we have to consider what happens to solar panels. Say, solar panels are really good for off-grid stuff. They're not really good for green or alternative energy otherwise. In this case, though, 4,000 acres of solar panels were destroyed in one Texas hailstorm, and now locals are worried about groundwater poisoning. So have a look at this video here. Let me go ahead and mute that because it's just a helicopter noise. So 4,000 acres, thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of solar panels just completely smashed by hail. Let me see if I think they had some close-up views. That's just overhead. Here's the close-up views. Oh man, this hurts my soul. Now, how did these couple solar panels here escape the tragedy? Because those seem to be in really good, amazing shape. I don't know what's going on with those ones. But all these panels destroyed. The problem is that solar panels are full of a lot of nasty stuff. And it's bad enough trying to dispose of a solar panel when it doesn't work anymore. But then when it's broken and then it starts raining, now we have to worry about groundwater contaminations and things like that. So they have cadmium telluride, copper iodine selenide, cadmium gallium diselenide, copper idinium galide diseleniide, hexafluoroethanide, ethane, lead, and polyvinyl fluoride. All stuff you don't want to be eating. And most of those, like selenium, not good for you. The cadmium is absolutely toxic. Copper is under a higher amounts. I don't know as much about cadmium telluride. Copper indium gallium diselenide, that is going to be really bad. Hexafluoroethane is horribly bad for you. Lead, of course. Will make your water taste sweet, though. That is indeed what happened to the Romans. Yeah, the Romans actually sweetened their wine with lead acetate because it tasted really neat. It kind of went nuts. So, yeah, they want us to switch to all this green energy. And, of course, nature comes by and says, oh, really? So just be aware of that. Green energy has some problems. Remember that big freak ice storm that hit Texas, and they couldn't generate enough power because it was against the law to run the power plants. They had the capacity to do it, but it was against the law to do so, which is utter nonsense. And, of course, that's what Washington's experimenting with. So, that's fine. On to our last article in business news. Of course, Blizzard releases a new EULA, which states, sorry you don't own anything. Sorry, but not sorry. I believe Louis Rossman did a video on this one as well. Everyone's been pushing out these brand new EULAs. This forces you, of course, into the arbitration, but it also basically says that you can't do anything to the system. We have full control. Even though you've paid tons and tons of money for our games, we can still ban you at any given time. This EULA would have killed Dota. Dota wouldn't exist if it weren't for this. Like if this were pushed back in the classic days of Warcraft 3, which is where Dota came out of, because any modding like that is no longer allowed. So you have that as an issue. Here is a relevant portion which would have related to Dota. Derivative works, copy, reproduce, expect by Section 1B. Translate, reverse engineer, derive source code from, modify, disassemble, decompile, create derivative works based on or related on the platform. All of that you're not allowed to do anymore. So do you have any choice? No. Blizzard changes the EULA include forced arbitration and, quote, you don't own anything. So I will certainly join you in showing my favorite two eagles that are flying over my head right now. Way up there, they're flying up there, the two eagles. To Blizzard. And I just got to say, you know what, guys? A fun fact. On Friday nights after the stream is over, I get all these videos compiled and done, and I take a break for the weekend, and I start with playing some good old classic Warcraft 3. Now, here's the thing. I have the discs, and I have the original CD keys for those. So I can install those without ever connecting them to the internet. Then what I did is I went online and I grabbed the last good update that was completely turned into a total abomination by adding the forced BattleNet crap. So I put that update inside of my backup files. So now if I ever have a need for playing Warcraft on a different computer, I simply install Wine, I install Warcraft, I put in my CD key, and then I manually patch it to the last good patch, which for record is 1.27. So if you still have Warcraft 3 and you'd like to play it with telling Blizzard to go F themselves, then just go online and find patch 1.27. And you can manually patch that. That'll give you the best version of the game right before they add all of the Blizzard nonsense. Because guess what, Blizzard? I don't agree to your terms of service, and I bought your Warcraft, and I'm going to keep playing it, and I don't agree to your terms, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Because that's the way I live my whole life. I am not going to be beholden to your nonsense. I'm going to use free and open source software. I'm going to continue to do what I need to do to have the best free use of everything I have. I have access to my game. It doesn't have to go through your servers, my friend. There's what I have to say about that. With that, guys, we're going to jump on over to SillyVille for our last section of the news. And first, of course, it is always a good time when we have a SillyVille update. Of course, last week we brought to you the story that a new California law was stopping the police from releasing the poor criminals' faces, which I found funny that you can show who the police officer is, but you're not allowed to show the guy who's breaking the law, the criminal caught in the act of the crime. California is absolute nonsense anyway. So, but of course they started replacing these photos with Legos. The Lego company reaches out and says, hey, stop doing that. We do not want our Lego heads being used for your criminal photographs. So they're gonna go out and say, oh, we're sorry, and they're gonna be looking like emojis or probably something stupid. Let's blur all the faces. We'll keep the police officers' faces because screw the police, and we'll just blur out the criminals because, yeah, Lord forbid that any of us know who might actually be a criminal, so we might protect ourselves against the guy who was just captured and released back on the streets to commit more crime. Yeah, this picture right here is everything wrong with America right now. That you can de-anonymize the police officer, which we should, but you have to hide the identity of the criminal. No. Now, I'm not for perp walks. I'm not for we have made an arrest and we're going to pointlessly walk this guy down this hall into the police car and all this. But we're talking about body cam footage and active crime footage. We're talking about code blue cam type stuff when an actual person is caught in an actual crime and arrested for that. And I understand that they have not yet been tried in court. Maybe we could think about some middle ground, but to say this is a guy caught in the act of crime to hide his face when you're not willing to hide everything else, we're not willing to tell a big data harvesting company not to harvest my data, we're not willing to take privacy serious anywhere else. I'm sorry, the last person I care about having their privacy honored necessarily is the guy involved in an act of crime, especially when the same photo allows the police officer to sit there showing his face. Now, portions of that I understand are going to be controversial thoughts and views, and I am certainly open to discuss and have a slight change in opinion on that. But it kind of irritates me when we're not even allowed to know who the criminals are anymore, so that they just sneak up on us unawares. Well, Samsung users are asking, why in the hell does the stylus pen on the Galaxy S24 smell like a burnt-out circuit board? Trust me, I know what this smells like. So people are saying that you got this, the stylus sits down here, it looks all nice and slick, and then people have noticed that pull it out, and I don't know who pull it out, like, smell that good old pen. Wait, it smells like burnt circuit boards. But yeah, apparently the stylus smells really, really bad. Some people describing it as fried electronics, which makes you wonder, is this going to be the next edition of the Samsung S TNT? If you remember, was it the 7, I think, was blowing up regularly? I forget which one that was. But in this case here, yeah, it's the stylus apparently is really stinky and people are wondering why. So if you got one of those, let me know how stinky it actually is. And this is just like, oh my Lord. Okay. We have serious problems in our country. Our border is completely overrun, not by refugee seekers, by illegal aliens who are crossing our border, engaging in an all-out invasion. Okay. They're not following our laws. They're not here from asylum. We know this because they're coming from halfway around the world. It's causing serious problems. We have serious issues with crime. We have just all sorts of weird stuff going all over the place. We have bridges collapsing. We have gas prices are shooting through the roof. Grocery prices are shooting through the roof. Insurance prices are shooting through the roof. And the Biden Department of Justice is suing Apple because green bubble text stigmatizes Android users. Biden DOJ, we have bigger fish to fry than the color of the bubbles on the text messages. Now, we understand around here that technically, yes, the color of the bubble indicates if it's encrypted or not encrypted, if people can see you typing or not see you typing back, things like that. To one person's point, hey, if Apple just said, hey, you can download this app, create an Apple account on your Android device and keep using it, dude, I bet they'd get a whole ton more people signing up for Apple stuff over there. They might even get some Apple converts if they did something like that. But because everything else has to deal with the equality stuff, these guys have a green bubble and these guys have a blue bubble, and the Biden DOJ is here to solve that problem, and they're here to sue Apple to make sure that the green bubbleism isn't foisted upon us. We need to make sure we have equity in the color of our text messages. So, yeah, Android's green bubble, Android text fuels social stigma, the DOJ claims in a landmark suit. Why do we waste our time on this? Notorious issue is heavily featured in the antitrust complaint filed. Of course, we talked about the antitrust in a previous video. Merrick Garland said Apple undermines rivals by having text from Android to iPhone suffer a limited functionality. Android users can't see the typing indicators, experience poor video quality, and have non-encrypted messages. You know, you can solve this with Signal. Just so you know. I think actually Silence can do it. I use Silence on my phone, but I don't really care about this kind of stuff, so I don't care. I get text red notifications on Silence. Android users can't see typing indicators. Oh my God. I can't see a typing indicator. I don't know in real time that you're responding to my text message. I'm going to have a conniption. Apple has stifled rival apps that could have fixed the problem. iPhone users also experience social stigma, exclusion, and blame for breaking chats where other participants own iPhones, the lawsuit claimed, adding that the effect is particularly powerful for certain demographics like teenagers. Will someone please think of the children? We need to make sure everybody has green bubbles. Someone please think of the children. We have bigger problems in our country. Way bigger problems in our country. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have supporter networks. Of course, we have Patreon, patreon.com/TOMM if you want to help support the channel over there. We do have Subscribestar, subscribestar.com/switchedtolinux. And we also have a locals page, switchedtolinux.locals.com. They will all give the same general perks to it. Of course, we have our short stories, we have our Thursday show, and things like that. Well, with that, if you want to help support the channel, you can jump onto one of those three sites. Otherwise, we will see you all next time.